Oh man, that sure was a fun trip to the ice cream parlor. So glad to finally be back in the lab to begin working on our next video. Right, Prime?
Yeah, absolutely. Though that trip was like a week ago. We do have lives outside of this, I spent a lot of time sleeping and swimming. Don't tell me you actually stayed at that ice cream parlor for a week.
No, we both did. I don't get how you're forgetting our time at the ice cream parlor. Hey, Prime, if it were up to me, avocados wouldn't exist.
What? Oh, yes, of course. The ice cream parlor. We ate the dish. I'm glad we're right back in the studio getting back at it today. This is why we're so close to the top so early on. Or at least it felt that way for a while.
Exactly. Anyhow, I think it's time we get into today's subject. The new Pokemon that we can expect to see in the Paldea region this November. The Pokemon Company has done a pretty good job showing us new stuff for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, while also leaving a lot of the new Pokemon a mystery. So it gives the both of us a lot of room to speculate on what kind of new creatures we can expect to see.
Yeah, it's been so wild, seeing so few Pokemon getting revealed. I mean, a little over a dozen? Talk about a far cry from what we're used to when we're about 2 months out from the game's release. That said, I actually do enjoy the Pokemon they've revealed so far, for the most part, and it gives me hopes that we're still going to be seeing quite a few interesting ones. But naturally, as you said, we've got to speculate. Let's come up with some we think could very well show up in this new region, basing it off of factors like lore and myths and animal life. However, before we talk about any of that, I want to ask you all kindly, yet firmly, to not post stuff about leaks or spoilers or anything like that in the comments. I don't care if you know what all the Pokemon are because your favorite online leaker or YouTuber told you about them. We aren't interested in having spoilers in our community, and I won't hesitate to delete your entire comment if you even hint at spoilers.
Alright, so let's get an easy one out of the way, first being a dolphin Pokemon. Every generation, it's the same song and dance. The location finally makes it seem like a dolphin is right around the corner, and then this happens. But I really think this time is finally the time. There are tons of dolphin species in this area of the world, so I really think it's finally time the fans get what they want.
Well, people have for sure been wanting some dolphin Pokemon, so I'm not shocked to see we started off with that softball of a choice. How about something based off of a lynx? Those are pretty well inhabiting a lot of Spain, and we have the perfect Pokemon right in front of us to turn into one. Sprigatito. I think it's finally going to be time for an animal to stay on all 4 legs, and a grass dark typing on this final evolution has been heavily speculated by people since its reveal. I think that typing makes sense too, because there's definitely not a single positive thing I can think about when I imagine being face down with a wild lynx. It's probably all going to go dark pretty quickly. So I think we can all thank the lynx for probably breaking a bipedal trend with starters that people have hated.
Yeah, I think a fair amount of people would probably lose their minds if Sprigatito ended up being a biped, but I really don't think there's a worry for that this time around. Also, while I feel grass dark typing is a pretty solid choice, I could also see them possibly going the grass ghost route. I mean, the Iberian lynx is endangered for a plethora of reasons, so I don't think it's too unreasonable of a type combination. But maybe they wouldn't want to do grass ghost again so soon, so I think you likely have the right choice there. But how about a Pokemon that could be part ghost type then? Morbidly enough, minks are very well known to be used for their coats around the world, and Spain has definitely partook in this trade. But there was also an incident within the last couple of years that resulted in the culling of nearly 100,000 minks in the region. So yeah, I'm thinking it's very possible we could get a ghost fairy type mink Pokemon. Something very adorable, yet very sad at the same time.
So to follow up that depressing story about minks, let me give you a fun one. In Basque mythology, there's a creature known as the Mairu, which were seriously just big, giant dudes who basically made stone structures and circles. All the fun stuff you might think of when you imagine Stonehenge or something like that. Well, obviously, Game Freak couldn't just put a giant guy out there and have him be a Pokemon. It's gotta be more like, some sort of creature. Just do your best to imagine a big, hairy, weird-looking thing that enjoys playing with rocks, and let's make it a ground type. That's not all there is to this thing, though. It also creates an all-new Pokemon when it builds with the rocks. We had the idea for a Stone Joiner pre-evolution that is directly made by this Mairu Pokemon. I honestly feel like pre-evos and baby Pokemon are a forgotten part of the franchise at this point, and introducing more pre-evolutions would be a cool direction for Scarlet and Violet to take itself.
So this next one that I want to talk about is a little hard to talk about since I have no idea how to pronounce its name. I'm just gonna put it up on screen. Yeah, it's this. Yeah, there's just no way I'm ever getting this correct without being told what it is. I can say though that the name does translate to red pants, and it's basically a Mr. Meeseeks. The legend goes that a peasant wanted to do less work, so he bought a box of these imps to do the work for him. The only issue is that once he had no more work for them to do, they started to undo everything that they had done out of frustration. So with them being cantankerous creatures that always want a task to do, typically with farmers, I think a nice grass fairy typing does the trick for these weird little critters.
You know, one of the big things I miss about being a human being is probably, well, having a nose. I want my nose back. I miss having a nose. I want to honk it and make clown noises, and I want to take stupid pictures with a wide-angle lens that make it look really huge. I think there is a Pokemon that can be based off the Home dels Nasos, and no, it's not connected to Nosepass. It's a poison type that's just a big ball of noses with googly eyes on it, and has a special move where it shoots noses 2 to 5 times. You know, from like the ball. I mean, the Home dels Nasos starts every year with 365 noses and loses 1 a day, so it definitely has some to spare. Who wouldn't want to capture this disgusting ball of flesh and mucus that looks really silly? I know I would.
A big ball of noses? What? Yeah, there's something wrong with the programming here. I think we need to go back to the ice cream shop after this. Well, let's just move on from the general Pokemon, and how about we think about some potential fossil Pokemon? But I want to mix it up a bit. Up until the 8th generation, fossil Pokemon were always part rock type, so the literal mix-up that we got in Sword and Shield was a fantastic addition to the series. But how about we do something a little wild here? Instead of the fossil Pokemon being fossils, we take a look at the possibility of them being frozen in time. Tons of animals have been found perfectly preserved from the Ice Age era of things, and I think with this new open world of Pokemon, it gives us the perfect opportunity to find large blocks of ice with prehistoric Pokemon found in them. Two really interesting options I believe we should see are the woolly rhino and the Irish elk. On the rhino side of things, we'd be looking at an ice fighting type for the typical aggressive nature rhinoceroses are known for, while I think the elk should be ice fairy as a giant antlered guardian deer is kind of a mythological staple, and we're not really trying to break trends too much here.
So I comment about the woolly rhino real quick. I think it's a brilliant concept you come up with here. It really can be aggressive when cornered or scared, and I'm just imagining how cool of a design it would have. I'm a bit more on the opposite side of things with the elk though. I see it more as an ice normal type as opposed to fairy. I really like the idea of the rhino having a clear bit of dominance over the elk despite the giant antlers this thing has. It could probably put up a big fight against a rhino, but I'm more so feeling that the one big horn, it's gonna crush the elk. That's it for them though. I have a third fossil Pokemon I want to talk about. That's right, 3 fossils just like in the first generation, sharing the ice typing instead of rock. I imagine a fossil Pokemon that actually isn't revived from anything, but instead is available in the overworld. It's based off the human ancestor, the Pyrolephaticus. I'm pretty sure that's how you would say that. It's a humanoid ape creature trapped in a block of ice. Fire-type Pokemon begin to inhabit the areas where it was frozen millions of years ago, and now it fights as an ice-water type in a full block of ice. It slips all around on the water it creates from melting, and it's just some wild stuff fighting from inside a damn block of ice! A block of ice! Imagine how crazy that is!
You know, why does everything gotta be wild and crazy with you? Why can't it ever be domestic and normal? You are getting such a big scoop after we're done here. That said, I do like the idea of having some type of humanoid-based fossil Pokemon. I mean, there is lore implying Pokemon and humans are probably related in some way or another, so maybe this Pokemon is the missing link to that. But I guess we'll just have to see if something like this even comes to fruition. But now I think I want to head into the Legends category of things, both pseudo and regular. Now, as much as I'd like to see more pseudo-legendary Pokemon like Metagross, in which they stray away from being yet another Dragon-type Pokemon, I don't think that's happening anytime soon. So naturally, we should take a look at the dragons of Spanish origin and figure out what we might be able to get here. The most famous one being the Heronsuge, a 7-headed serpent-like dragon. Now, even though we have Hydreigon, I feel if they make these a bit more snake-like in appearance, it won't tread on its territory too much. As for typing, I really can just imagine it being something simple like a Dragon Fire type. Nothing too flashy, yet cool all the same.
Let's go from something not too flashy to something incredibly flashy. A Pokemon based off the Tio de Nadal. It's a Christmas log, guys. You beat it up with sticks, we'll draw a little face on it, make it a grass type, boom! All new Pokemon, and for good measure, we'll make it a legendary. You're walking around the frozen tundra of Paldea with weird caveman-esque Pokemon sliding around in giant blocks of ice and other random ice-type Pokemon, and then there it is. You hear jingle bells. You feel the presence of good tidings and joy. And then you see it, a legendary Pokemon with its goofy face sticking out from the snow. You throw a Pokeball at it, and it bounces off. You grab it, and it's just an actual log buried in the snow. That's when this legendary, Tio de Nadal, comes out and attacks. Wouldn't that be the greatest Pokemon ever, Dex?
Noseballs, apes on ice, and logs you beat with sticks? What is wrong with you? You know what? Here's a normal one for these fine people watching at home. We'll have a red squirrel based on the legendary Ratatoskr. Now, it would have made much more sense for a Pokemon like this to have been created in the 6th generation to go alongside the Aura Trio, but no matter. There's no time like the present. See, Ratatoskr was a messenger that ran up the Tree of Life Yggdrasil to deliver messages between the eagle that sat atop the tree and Nidhogg, the serpent that sat below it. Being that the Aura Trio was based on this piece of Nordic mythology, it's strange that they just left out the mischievous messenger that causes most of the commotion between the opposing forces. So yeah, let's get us our Ratatoskr legendary Pokemon, make it a pure fairy type, and call it a day.
That brings us to our final Pokemon of the day, which I'm not too sure if we want to say is a legendary or not really. It could be, it could not be. Regardless of that, it's a pretty awesome concept. It's a Pokemon based off of a bull and a matador. More specifically, on the bull part, it's an Atx. Atx. Oh man, Dex, that's difficult. That's a little bit of mythology of the Basque people as well, with the ability to shapeshift, which is a huge part of what we want to do. Essentially, this Pokemon starts off with a design like a matador, featuring a cool outfit and a cape of some kind that it can use to attack. Though, it's when its signature ability, Seeing Red, kicks in that things get real interesting.
When this Pokemon is hit with a super effective critical hit, it'll shapeshift into its bull form, getting a huge increase to its base stat total and turning from a bulky, speedy special attacker into a slightly less speedy but extremely hard-hitting physical attacker. I think this form change also warrants 2 different typings between the two. So how about we go with something like Fighting Psychic for the Matador form and Fighting Fire for the Bull form?
It's a pretty cool concept, really. I think a lot of Darmanitan with this thing, except there's a very convoluted way to get to its powerful form. Could you imagine trying to have a Pokemon land a crit super effective move on you purposely? I suppose from a competitive standpoint, there's a chance it could be seen in doubles. I mean, one Night Slash on the Matador from its partner in battle, and that could be enough to trigger the ability if you're lucky. Regardless of that, I'm a big fan of this guy and would love to see a Pokemon like this.
So I think that about does it for us here today. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet have shown us a nice handful of new Pokemon, and I really do believe that the Pokemon we talked about here today have a real shot at being introduced in the upcoming 9th generation. What are your thoughts on this, Prime?
Well, if I was going to offer any thoughts, they'd probably be that we are awesome. Did you see these great ideas we came up with today? We might as well be working for Game Freak. Heck, I should probably ban myself from the comments because I bet some of the Pokemon we talked about today are actually real.
Whoa there, let's not get all crazy and wild here. I mean, what do you think you'd actually be able to do there? You just chop everything up to bits and ruin the nice furniture. But hey, maybe they'd keep you behind some glass as a cool thing to display to investors.
I guess you're right. The last thing I want to do is not make the investors have to do something like that. It would definitely get in the way of me turning back into a human. Alright, my bad. Let's just wrap this video up.
Yeah, let's. Thank you for watching, everyone. I'm Collector Dexter.
Yeah, and I'm the Prime Directive.
And we'll see you all next time.